Hey everyone, I'm Kyo Oan, but you can call me Kyo. Welcome to my channel, Kyo in Hanoi. Before I start, I want to be honest with you about something. This video wasn't easy for me to film. There were moments when I hit record and then turned it off again because I didn't know how to begin and I wasn't sure whether I should show this part of my life to everyone. But then I thought, if there's someone out there going through the same thing I am, just moved to a new place and lost that feeling of stability because of not having a job, then maybe this video could help them feel like they're not alone. And that's why I decided to hit record and let the camera run for an entire day like this. I moved to a new place about a week ago. The decision to move wasn't because of any big conflict. It was simply that I wanted a fresh start, to escape the flooding that came into my room every time it rained, and most of all, to have a living space I could truly call home, even if it's just a rental. But the price for that change was that I had to quit my old job and the new job, and still hasn't come. At first I thought finding a job would be quick. I have experience, a solid resume, applied to a few places, and someone would call back. But reality wasn't like that. There were days I sent out a dozen CVs without a single reply, interviews I prepared carefully for, and still got back a polite but cold rejection email. Gradually, that feeling of I'll probably have a job by next week kept getting pushed back further and further until I no longer dared to set a deadline for myself. So today, I decided not to run from that. Let's spend a day together seeing what it's like with no job and no income, not to complain, but so I can look back on it and so that you, if anyone out there is in a similar situation, can know that days like this do eventually pass. Today, I stayed in my room all day, didn't go outside. Partly because Hanoi has been brutally hot lately, with outdoor temperatures climbing close to 40 degrees Celsius. Going out right now is basically torturing yourself like stepping straight into a frying pan. But the other reason, honestly, is that every time I go out, it becomes a calculation. Take the bus or walk to save money? Should I buy a cup of iced tea from a street stall or go home and make it myself to save money? It sounds trivial, but when you have no income, those small numbers add up into no small amount of pressure in your head every day. So staying in my room today was good for my health and helped me cut down on spending 2 reasons, but both leading to the same point. Slow down, spend less during this phase. And since I was home all day, I decided to do something I'd been putting off, tidying up the attic, the wardrobe, and cooking a meal in the little kitchen. I have to be honest, my older sister is a sentimental person. She likes to keep things, often unable to bring herself to throw anything away because of the memories attached. This wardrobe has basically been her territory for years because she used to live here alone while I lived somewhere else. Now that I've moved in to live with her, her pile of belongings is still here, stacked up like a layer of memories that hasn't been sorted through yet. She's gone abroad now for work, but didn't take everything with her. She left it here for me, and I'll gradually take it back to our hometown. As you can see, this wardrobe doesn't even have doors. It looks kind of funny, but it's still sturdy and good for storage, so I kept using it instead of throwing it out. Because it has no doors, the clutter just hits you straight in the eye. A mountain of clothes, all mixed together, even a winter sweater that never got put away from who knows when. I sat down, started taking everything out piece by piece, folding it, sorting it by color. While folding clothes, I found an old shirt, the collar worn thin, but still carrying the familiar scent of my sister's perfume. It brought back memories when we were both kids. Our family wasn't well off, and clothes were usually worn by my sister first, then passed down to me once she outgrew them. I used to hate that, used to feel hurt, always having to wear hand-me-downs. But sitting here now, holding my sister's shirt in my hands, I feel grateful instead for having a sister who's always looked out for me, down to the smallest things, even if sometimes the way she shows it is leaving things scattered all over the wardrobe like this. I laugh to myself, folding clothes while thinking that tidying up a wardrobe turns out to also be a way of tidying up old memories I hadn't looked back on in a long time. The clothes hanging in the wardrobe, I also rearranged by color so they'd be easier to find, so the shirts stay smooth and don't need ironing before wearing, mostly the shirts I used to wear to work. Picking up those shirts, I suddenly realized it had been weeks since I'd had a reason to wear them. No job means no more rushing mornings ironing a shirt, no more meetings, no more feeling of going to work that I used to take for granted, even used to feel exhausted by. Now that it's gone, I realize just how much I miss that busy feeling. Maybe people only truly appreciate something once they've lost it, even if only temporarily. Folding and organizing the clothes took quite a bit of time, but I found it soothed some of the restlessness inside me. There's a feeling of being in control of something, even something small when everything around me, from my job to my income, is out of my control. Seeing a messy wardrobe become tidy brought me a rare bit of peace. I finally finished folding, everything sorted and put away in the drawers. Looking at the wardrobe now that it's tidier, I felt happy inside, a small joy, but a real one. Next was the attic, entirely my sister's belongings. It's fairly spacious up there, but the stairs leading up are steep and vertical. Looking a bit dangerous every time I climb, I have to hold on tight to the metal rail, climbing while reminding myself careful, careful. But honestly, even though the stairs are a bit dangerous and the attic is cramped, I still feel lucky to have this room. For the price I'm paying in rent, this is a real find, hard to come by in Hanoi, a city where rent keeps climbing while wages stay flat, sometimes even dropping during months without work like this one. Sitting in the attic, looking down at my small room, I thought about my family back home. My parents aren't wealthy. Their whole lives spent tending the fields and a few odd jobs to raise the two of us. The day I decided to go study in Hanoi, a girl who left home to study far away and became independent. At 12 years old, more hardened and self-reliant compared to peers my age, who were sheltered. But standing in that moment really moved me. My mother cried, not out of sadness, but out of worry. Worried about her daughter alone in a big city, with no family nearby, not knowing what would happen. At that moment, I promised my mother that no matter how hard things got, I would take care of myself, and every month I'd try to send a little money back to help my parents. That promise to this day is still something I try to keep. Even though months without income, like this one, force me to count every single penny, I need to spend very carefully so I can pay rent, send some money back home to my parents, and still keep a little aside for emergencies to limit risk. A lot of people might think, if you don't have a job, just rest and figure it out once you find one. But for me, that's not really an option back home. My parents are still waiting, still trusting that their grown daughter can take care of herself on her own. Even though my parents never demand a specific amount each month, I still consider it a duty I need to fulfill. So sometimes it becomes an invisible pressure tied to not wanting to disappoint them. I started reorganizing things in the attic. First the pile of clothes, then the old boxes. I tidied up each box, threw away things no longer needed, so the room could breathe better and reduce mold, especially on hot, humid days like these, when piled up belongings easily develop odors and mildew. Ta-da! The attic is done too. It looks so much cleaner and tidier than before. For now, this place will be storage, like a small warehouse. Later, if I get a roommate, I'll move up here to sleep, but for now, I'll just leave it as is. Honestly, the thought of finding someone to live with also makes me a little anxious. Living with a stranger has never been easy, but in my current situation, splitting the rent is a practical way to ease the burden. I remind myself, sometimes you have to learn to be flexible, to accept things that aren't perfect in exchange for a life with less financial pressure. After a full afternoon of tidying, I went to cook dinner. I started the rice cooker, then began slicing meat. This food was sent down from my hometown by my mother. My family lives very far from Hanoi, so every time my mother sends something up, it's a long bus journey, the food carefully wrapped in several layers of bags, sometimes even with a little note tucked in saying, "Remember to eat properly, don't work on an empty stomach." Every time I receive a package like that, I feel both happy and choked up. Happy, because I know I'm still loved even from far away. Choked up because I know my parents back home aren't well off either, yet they still scrimp and save to send their child fish bundles of homemade bamboo shoots. Today I'm making bamboo shoots stewed with pork, a dish I've known since I was little, because bamboo shoots are something readily available where we live, though gathering them up in the mountains is hard work. So my mother usually salts or dries them to use over time, and every time I go up to Hanoi, she packs a little to send along. I blanch the pork in boiling water to clean it, then put the meat and bamboo shoots in to stew together. This dish is simple to make, but it tastes wonderful and soaks up the seasoning so well. The smell of bamboo shoots stewed with pork wafting up makes me strangely homesick. Standing alone in the small kitchen, stirring the pot of bamboo shoots, I suddenly remembered family meals from before. The whole family sitting around the tray of rice, the sound of laughter and chatter, the clinking of bowls and chopsticks. Now, the meal is just me alone, but in every bite of bamboo shoot, I can still feel the warmth of my mother of the kitchen back home. I cooked enough for tomorrow too, because tomorrow I have to go to my part-time job at a small shop, a temporary job, to bring in a bit of extra income while I wait to find a full-time position. I'm bringing food with me because eating out around that area is fairly expensive compared to part-time pay, so prepping rice the night before helps me save quite a bit. Honestly, at first I felt a little hesitant about taking a part-time job since it's completely different from what I used to do, and the pay is much lower too. There were moments I asked myself whether I was going backwards compared to before. But then I realized, no job is beneath anyone as long as it helps you support yourself through hard times, and as long as you don't give up looking for a longer path forward for your future. Sometimes daring to take on small, temporary jobs is actually a sign of growing up, not a sign of failure. After eating, I cleaned up and washed the dishes. Looking at the room now, tidy after a full day of cleaning. Looking back at the meal I cooked today, I felt much lighter inside than I did this morning. And so, ends the day, no job, no income, but a tidy wardrobe, an airy attic, a delicious meal, eaten alone but made with all of my mother's love, and a few old memories revisited and cherished once more. I know that out there are a lot of people, maybe some of you watching this video right now, also going through a difficult stretch. Just graduated and haven't found a job yet, just quit an old job and haven't found a new one. or having to carefully weigh every smallest expense each day. I want to tell you that feeling anxious, worried, even sometimes feeling insecure for not being as settled as your peers is completely normal. Anyone can go through it. But days like this don't define who we are. We can still find small joys in tidying up a corner of the house, in a home-cooked meal, in old memories rediscovered from the bottom of an old wardrobe. And more importantly, we're still trying, still moving forward, even if a little slower than what we once expected of ourselves. Thank you all so much for watching, all the way to this point, for listening to a very ordinary, very real day of mine. If this video resonated with you, or if you're going through something similar, please subscribe to the channel so we can go through the days ahead together. And if you have any questions about Hanoi, about my life, or about anything at all, leave a comment below. I read all of them, and I'd really love to hear your stories too. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.